Okay. You can tell me, Jim, and everybody, I think everybody's in. Okay. Good evening. Sorry for the delay. Just a couple of things I have to read and then we can get started. So let's see, the town of Scituate's commitment to diversity, equality, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during the meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask that our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and support and respect our community. Thank you. And then this meeting is being held remotely as an alternative means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. So all that said, welcome everybody this evening. And I'd like to start with our beach policy, and I think Corey is on, so maybe we could start with that with her. If that's possible.
Yeah, we have Corey on here. Corey's our coastal resource officer. Hi, Corey.
Hi, I just got unmuted, so sorry about that. So in response to some resident complaints and some personal observations about general movement of materials on the beach, including cobble, sand, gravel, parts of dunes, overwash, putting overwash back onto the dune, moving cobble around to create trails, flattening out dunes to create more of a flatter recreational zone in front of people's houses. It seems to be getting a little bit out of hand. So Amy and I kind of came up with a way that maybe we could address it. So I put together a draft policy on how we might be able to address some of these activities. And I believe Amy sent it out to you, but just basically looking for some basic feedback on that. And, you know, once we get some consensus on what we're trying to accomplish with it, we can come up with an outreach plan on you know, how we want to engage the public on this policy.
To be honest, Corey, I haven't had a chance to look at it much. I don't know if any of the members have, or Amy, if you want to comment. I'm catching up here for a second.
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it's
Yes,
pretty general, it's pretty generic, but you know, basically that large scale movement of material on the dunes and manipulations of the beach form is generally incompatible with the Wetland Protection Act, and putting an overwash back on the beach is allowed, but generally you need to have a minor activity permit to do that. And when you're doing that, or when those activities are happening, I just want to see in advance, you know, and I have an idea of where that material is going to be placed and how they're going to do it. It seems to be that the material is not necessarily being placed in the geometry or the location that's best for the resource area. It's kind of just being kind of leveled out and compacted and graded to create this nice flat beach area. Whereas it would be better off if it was at least in a mounded form, kind of like a dune.
Right. So I think a lot of this for the members that haven't heard or caught when the beach season always starts out with some issues, and it seems like this year a lot of material was stripped away or left things exposed in different manners, and then people take it upon themselves to clear a path to the beach or try to make things a little bit easier. Some of them are pretty simple, and as Corey said, they may be just a minor activities permit, but other people have asked to bring machinery onto the beach to move larger amounts of stone, and we don't encourage that. In fact, that would require a filing with us, at least an RDA, and but we have in some cases considered allowing people to spread more sand as a way to get back and forth to the beach. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, Corey. Like, should we be encouraging them to do that? Is there kind of sand?
Like to bring in sand from an outside, like from an
Source.
upland source?
Yeah, like a sand, a coarse sand, mason sand, some sort of just loose sand material, if that would make much of a difference or whatever.
I mean, as long as it's not being compacted and graded, because that really changes the flow of stormwater and actually increase erosion and flooding. But I mean, I don't, as long as the material that they're bringing in is compatible material and the grain size is not something that's too fine that it's just gonna wash away or blow away. Basically, I don't think that would be too bad, but I think we want to know about it before just granting this blanket okay, because like we've seen this year, it just seems to be getting a little too out of hand, where one person does it and then the neighbors think that, oh, well, they're doing it, so it must be allowed, and then all the other neighbors start doing it, and then we're just concerned about some of the machinery actually doing beach scraping, where they're pushing sand up the beach from the intertidal area, which generally is not a good idea. It's definitely not compatible with the Wetlands Protection Act standards.
For sure, and we don't, we know that people take things upon themselves. There's some cases where people have permission to say clean out under their house or clean up their driveway or something. And the next thing you know, they've got the guy on the other side of the dune or on the beach side making a few more changes. And we certainly are trying to curtail that. We know that's not allowed, and anything that they want to do on the beach needs some sort of approval. And it is a little bit of a slippery slope. We have the minor activities to allow people to do small amounts of things, but like I said, once they get a machine there or something, then it's hard to monitor. And it seems like it happens all at once, somewhere around the end of June, 4th of July. These things always, get going, then they settle out a little bit. But that was one of the thoughts that I had. If we could know if we could be a little more specific about the type of sand and if we would allow people to place that over the cobble as a way to get to the beach. And, you know, if we can give them, if we think that a minor activities permit is sufficient for that, you know, let them make sure that they post their permit or something so that people can see that you do require a permit. But you're right, once people start, others just jump in. And there has been a couple of weeks that it's been pretty chaotic.
Yeah, so this is just, you know, a way to kind of clarify what's allowed, what's not allowed, and what people do need to come in for permits. And again, this is just a draft, just looking for some basic feedback. One way to allow people to gain better access is maybe the placement of a temporary mat, like a Moby mat. But you know, that again, that's something that has to be kind of staked down and, you know, monitored to make sure it doesn't wash away onto somebody else's property. So I don't know, it's kind of a difficult thing, but hopefully this policy will kind of help to clarify, you know, what people can do without having to come in for a permit.
Okay, great. It looks like Richard's got some thoughts.
I got a couple, if you don't mind. First of all, it says Humrock. Is this only for Humrock or is this for all the beaches in Scituate?
All the beaches.
Okay, I know here, and I think I mentioned this in a text back to Amy, there are several homes in the middle of Humrock, I can't say down the south end, that have had the cobble in front of their homes pushed back into the water, and then they do spread some sand, maybe the width of their home and 20 feet at the top of the beach away from the wall. And they spread sand, which my concern was more that sand was not compatible with what's already there. I have no problem that they should be getting or alerting our office at all. But they're not taking anything off the beach. They're putting it back into the water and it washes back in the first big storm we have in the winter. And I'm just wondering if that really is a big concern. And second of all, I would be very concerned about any change to the dunes. And I think overall, I think it's a good policy. I just think it should be for every beach. And I think it ought to be specified specifically what can and can't be done. And somehow we got to get the word out, because I don't think people would object to a minor activity to do something like this, if indeed it can be allowed.
I would echo Richard's sentiments there in the sense that I think it just needs to be a little bit more, and maybe it's as simple as like bullet points or something like that, calling out, you know, what's allowed and it not being buried towards the bottom would probably be beneficial.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to have pushed the dune back into the ocean, because then it's not functioning as a dune.
Oh, I agree with you completely. I'm talking only about cobble that is on the beach, not touching dunes at all.
Yeah, even though cobble might be, you know, different from what you would think of as being a dune, it can still be classified as a dune and function similar to one, and protect the landward property from stormwater and storm surge from
Well,
you know, the storms that occur in the wintertime.
I totally understand what you're saying, except what they're doing is they're taking it, pushing it away from the wall, but I get what you're saying.
Oh, okay, yep.
It's was explained to me, Richard, by maybe Jim O'Connell and a couple other coastal geologists, is, you know, when the material gets placed by the wave action, it's kind of embedded there a little bit more. And when we move it around with machinery, we sort of loosen it all up, and then it doesn't act quite the same in the scheme of things overall, whether that small amount makes a big difference, but again, allowing people without much control, it can go either way. You know, there's certainly responsible people, and then there's folks that just rent a Bobcat for the weekend and cause all kinds of mayhem.
I totally agree that that conservation needs to be notified and they have to be told exactly what's going to be done. And if a minor activity permit is in order, then that would be perfect, rather than just having them do it. And usually here in this area, it's done in May, not June, so that the people open up and they have a little area to put their chairs or whatever, because they don't have any other than on cobble right now.
Sure.
That's all.
I get it. I mean, you're there for the
Yeah.
beach and you don't have a beach.
It's called
but-
Hummerock for a reason.
Is Andy with us?
No, Andy's not on tonight.
Okay, Brendan?
Brendan, where are you?
He's muted.
There he is. There he is.
Yeah, I'm
There it is.
sorry. I forgot how Zoom works.
Any-
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's great.
Doug,
It's great.
hey,
It's
Doug,
great.
how-
Doug, how about you?
I don't know. I'm enjoying this. Yeah, I guess there's a judgment call, and if it's a minor activity permit would suffice. I guess Amy would have to make that call on whether she would want him to go, depending on what the work was. If she thought it involved, as much as a notice of intent or whatever. So, but I think the process of applying for something and getting, written permission, actually helps. So that at least there's some kind of a policy that there's, that this is not just, just do whatever you want. And that it just sort of lets people know that the commission is involved in it and that it does matter what happens out there on the beach. And then, and hopefully, people would comply if it's something as minor as that, that it's not a big headache for them to get one. So it seems like it's a good policy.
So it's tricky because it can change from year to year. Anybody?
Yeah.
It's been
Yeah,
down
it's
there.
I realize it's a little subjective, which I don't like policies that are subjective, because then it's hard for Amy to have to make the call all the time.
Sure it is.
Is there any thoughts about, Corey, I know that you've just barely got your toe in the water here, so to speak. But for a while there was outreach to the different beach associations, and sometimes that works well and sometimes jumping from the frying pan to the fire. But trying to explain to people, residents, folks that are most impacted by that, why we look for these things, is that worth trying to?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Some people aren't
I
going to
think
want to
this-
hear what you have to say, but
I know there's going to be definitely some people that just don't really care that there might be a long-term impact to the
Right.
beach by their activities, and but there should be more outreach, and I think this is just like the beginning of doing some setting the stage of, all right, this is what's allowed, this is not what's not allowed, and this is why, and here's some basic information about it. And I think over the long term, I'll probably try and get more outreach and engagement with the public on it.
Richard or Jen, do you think that would be helpful in either one of your areas in town?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because it, puts a face with the policy that we're trying to enforce, and it lets people know that you're looking for it.
Yeah, South River Beach is a pretty good organization, and I think they'd be very responsive to have an approach like that. I think that would be very helpful.
Okay. Well, let's see, we can talk about that some more, Corey, and I think Amy might have some contacts. Maybe we can get some from a couple of different associations and see if that's possible. Again, it's kind of tricky because people tend to arrive at their place, early summer or something, and then they go right at it and getting things ready, and usually amounts to a couple of weeks of mayhem.
True.
And it is important for people to understand if they're interested. Plus, it makes them aware of what we'd like to see. So we appreciate you putting this effort into this step, and I think it's great that you're working with the commission and Amy and Jen. I know there's a lot of different, you have a lot of different tasks to do, but I think this is an important one, and it makes people aware that the town's proactive in this as well.
Okay,
Anybody
well,
else? Go ahead.
yeah, if there's any specific comments, feel free to edit the draft directly, and I can revisit it and kind of streamline it a little bit, but this is, again, just a draft.
Okay.
Good.
Well, anybody has thoughts on it? Could you put that in there or get back to Amy or Corey would be helpful. Anything else you want to add, Corey?
Nope.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks for taking the time tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. And I had a couple of comments just quickly. So really the intent of the policies is to clarify the resource area and just to bring attention to the sensitivity of the resource area and the regulations that we administer here at the Conservation Commission and at the town, which is really no adverse impact to the resource area. We do allow under minor activities certain storm cleanup activities to facilitate the overwash return to the beach, but that's really it. So stairs going down and occasionally some compatible material to go on top of cobble if it's a cobble a year. But that's really it. There's no shaping, there's no digging of paths with machines. The minor activity permits are specific for that post-storm damage kind of cleanup. And some other random minor, like 1-day events that, like a footing potentially or something like that. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to some things, and Jen just reminded me that we did not vote. Thank you very much, Corey. You don't have to, unless you want to watch a fun evening on the Conservation Commission. We don't expect you to hang around.
All right, thank you. All right,
You have a
have a
nice
good
night.
night.
You too. Jen just reminded me that we did not vote the agenda. So we really didn't get started yet with our regular agenda. Does anybody have anything? Oh, is there somebody that wanted to speak to this? We didn't ask anybody in the audience. But,
It looks like we have Connor D. raising
Okay.
his hand, I'm assuming about the speech policy.
sure. Good evening. Can you unmute Connor?
There we go. Thanks so much. Yeah, I was just trying to follow up with this committee about a proposal I emailed.
Connor, can we take, Connor, we gotta take that up another night. We got a huge pile on
I
the agenda
understand.
here.
My
So,
first email that a proposal April 4th. The summer is almost over, so can that be on the 25th?
I don't know. Jen just got back from vacation. We're gonna do the best we can. I know that you've been anxious to speak to us about that, and we've had a whole bunch of run-ins with issues on the beach, and that's why we try to get this policy together for unpermitted activities.
Okay, it is top of mind for the select board. They asked me for a status update and I said, I don't know. So hopefully the 25th would be great. I just need 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So,
So Frank, so just a couple of things to add on. One is we're gonna take out of order 327 Central. We have our
Yep.
peer review on, and then also not listed on this agenda that's showing there are some continuances, which you can read after that, but it's 34 Ocean Drive if you're on for that, or 15 Revere. Both of those projects and 19 Wood Island are continued.
okay, great.
Okay.
All right, so we are gonna jump to 3. Does anybody have anything else they want to add or change on the agenda?
I think we should accept the agenda as written.
Do I have a second?
Second from Jen.
Thank you, Jen. All in favor, Doug
Yes.
and
Brendan.
Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes. That was a nice, quick response, Brendan. Thank you. So how about 327 Central Ave? Who do we have on for that?
I've got Josh Green. Hold on. Find him. Okay, Josh, you're on.
Josh Green from Merrill. Since the last meeting, we were just really responding to Bob's comments, which, just to go over briefly without reading everything. The first category was the flood construction. We addressed the main concern about, at least in our opinion, the effects of the proposed house on abutting structures. We listed the distances from existing additions to proposed to kind of show that while the building is expanding, the impact to the existing structures on either side, in our opinion, is de minimis. The other thing that was on there was just relating the first floor elevation. The first floor is above the VE zone, and the basement itself has the flood control structures that are listed for the AE zone. So that should do the flood construction. Salt marsh, there was no comment needed at that time, given those comments. Riverfront, we provided a mean high water exhibit just to kind of show the overall area, just because mean high water was out a decent ways, just to give the commission an idea of where it kind of fell. The GIS image down that overlaid was just for illustrative purposes. It's not accurate to where everything falls. I just wanted you guys to be able to see. I know you've been out to the site, so roughly where it was. And the last thing was the coastal bank. We have an existing stable bank as it is on the kind of as the plan we're looking at right now on the right side. The slope of it's being maintained from existing proposed. The vegetation will remain pretty much in the same state, and drainage patterns will remain the same as well, or at least for the most part. There are minor grading changes there. So in our opinion, there aren't anything or there's no information between proposed and existing that leads us to believe that the application or the proposed plan will create a less stable coastal bank. I believe that was in general all the comments that were there.
Amy, do we have Bob Gray?
Yes,
We
I'm
do.
here, Frank.
Bob's on, yep.
So I think probably it'd be best to take Bob's comments next, and then we can move to or maybe a little discussion there. All right.
Okay,
Yep.
I think I'll start where Josh left off, which is the coastal bank, and I just want to get some clarification. Josh, you submitted a plan with two center lines, transects A and B. Is it your opinion that transect B reflects both a top and a toe of a coastal bank, but transect A does not? reflect the coastal bank?
You're muted, Josh.
Yeah, I can do, yep, now I'm good. Yes, I agree with that, Bob, I believe. So you said A does
Okay.
not and B does?
Okay, because on the B transect, you clearly have it marked a top and a toe. And you didn't on transect A. And so my interpretation was that you were only indicating a coastal bank to the right side of the house as you're facing the water.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So I think I would agree with their analysis that the coastal bank performance standards are pretty well met here. I don't see an inconsistency with the performance standards based on the fact that there's an existing structure here. That structure has occupied the location for some time. The field indications are that there's been no destabilization to that bank from the present structure. And I would be in agreement that the proposed structure won't change things with respect to that coastal bank. Having said that, I think there's still some questions perhaps the commission has relative to whether or not there'll be any change in direction or intensity of wave action or flood waters due to the construction. And I think I'm comfortable with the response that Merrill provided on that issue. But when we get to that resource area, I'll let Josh review that a little further because although 13140 has no performance standards for land subject coastal storm flowage, the local bylaw does. And I want to be sure that I'm interpreting your response letter that you see no issues there. But first, I'd like to go to your notice of intent, the revised notice of intent. And I want to go to the section on the riverfront because I'm still a little confused on some figures that you've used in some of the older correspondence and what you're reflecting right now. So on the revised notice of intent, the total area of the riverfront is listed as 10,358 square feet. Is that figure correct?
Which number did you say?
This would be total area of the riverfront on the site. The figure is 10,358 square feet.
Yes.
Okay, and the total square foot of alteration is listed at 1066. That's a different figure from what you folks listed in the correspondence that was sent on March 9th of 2022 called the River Area Analysis. The 10,358 figure is the same, but the impacts or alteration in the riverfront was listed as 2,319. And I'm trying to reconcile how you went from 2,319 square feet to now 1,066.
Yep, nope, I've got it. Yep, I'm seeing it.
yeah. This
I
is
would
on-
have to say that the 2000 is probably the correct number. I have a feeling that the 1000 was based off our original design. So I believe the 2000 is the correct number.
Okay. All right, so 2000. In that same section on the riverfront, in three, and just in number 5, you have not checked off an alternatives analysis, and I just want to be sure that the reason that there's you're claiming no alternative analysis is that you're using the section of the riverfront for redevelopment of previously developed riverfront area.
That is what we were going under.
Okay, and that would be correct, that an alternatives analysis is not necessary for that section. I think I'm comfortable with you meeting the performance standards for the riverfront, even though we've got a discrepancy at the moment with the total square foot. I don't see that the project's incompatible since it is redevelopment and you're really doing the alteration on previously altered areas, lawn or landscape areas. Could you go to the section on land subject coastal storm flowage? And in your letter, recent letter, you've touched on essentially section 15 of the bylaw. Again, to repeat what I said, there are no performance standards that you have to meet under land subject coastal storm flowage under the state act. But there is some language in the bylaw, and I think you've addressed the areas that I was hoping you would touch upon. But do you want to just review those and state clearly for the commissioners what your position is and how you're meeting the constraints of the bylaw?
Yeah, I guess I just asked, I mean, does the commission want me to read each individual one or just general statement?
General statement.
I think the general statement would be fine.
I mean, the first one was, which is section F on the letter, was just to treat each individual resource independently. We have, so that's that one. That one's relatively straightforward. The second one is the interest of the flood control and storm damage prevention. I think the main question that's been raised at the start of the project was whether the expansion of the footprint would impact the structures on either side. We're not moving the structures significantly closer to either structure. And the foundation is going back towards the rear of those existing structures. So it wouldn't lead to a new direction. We're not changing, you know, the orientation of the house to deflect any waves that may occur. And in a similar note, that it's being more in line towards those. So it's actually bringing it as a less of a chance of deflecting it towards a portion of the existing structure than the current one is, because it's moving back towards the rear of those dwellings. Then the next one, which was G, I believe, was just related to the elevation of, I believe it's living space. And the first floor on the proposed structure is 4 feet above the VE zone. So it should comply with that. Related to the basement, there's flood control structures in place for the basement. And then I and H and I are both related to FEMA VE zones.
Which, okay. Do commissioners have some questions for Josh or myself relative to these sections of the bylaw that he just addressed?
I don't.
Doug,
No, I don't. That sounded clear.
Jen,
Yeah, I don't think so.
Brendan?
I do not.
Okay, Amy, did you want to ask anything about this yet?
No, thanks for the additional information. I do think though that we should get Bob's comments in writing, not just an oral, presentation of, kind of working through the comments, before closing. But it sounds like this is what they're presenting, so probably a decision. We're getting close to a decision.
When is your next meeting? 2 weeks out?
25th.
Okay. I could have new comments to you folks next week so that you would have them for the 25th. I would say in closing, I don't see any major red flags here. I think they've addressed the issues. I would appreciate Josh just clarifying again. He can do it by email or whatever, so that I have something in writing on the correct alteration figure for the riverfront. And I think he's indicating we want to go with the 2319 versus what's in the revised notice of intent of 1066. But even if there's a difference in the higher number is used, I don't see anything in the riverfront regulations for redevelopment of previously developed riverfront areas that would be an impediment for the commission to approve a positive order of conditions. But I will get a brief comment letter to you folks so that you can close on the 25th and issue your order after that.
All right, well, this one's been out for a bit. I just, we've kind of gone around a little bit on some of the details, and we're looking at the existing conditions on the screen that's on there now. Does anybody have any questions with the project itself, the new house? Can we switch the screen, Jen, to show?
There we go.
Yep.
It is. Yeah.
So I think it would be a good idea at this time to just kind of run through this again. Some of you had the chance to be out there and see this site. And if you have any thoughts or concerns or want to vocalize anything on that would be helpful. Also, there's some mitigation plantings and stuff involved.
Right.
So, Richard?
No, I'm good with it now. I think the changes and the additional information has cleared up my mind fine.
Okay, Doug?
No, I don't think I don't have any questions. Looking at this, I've looked through it quite a bit over the last week. So I'm
Okay. Jen?
I can't quite recall how big was the replication or what did you call it, Frank? Or
Mitigation or
how much bigger is the mitigation area now than it was before?
The plan, and I'll let Josh confirm this, but the plan that's up on the screen right now looks like it's 1108 square feet. Is that correct?
That is
Josh?
correct. Yep, that is correct.
And how much was it before?
The mitigation stayed the same.
Okay.
We never asked for it to change, I don't think.
And Bob, you're in agreement with the type of plantings and stuff?
Yes,
or-
those were all appropriate for that coastal setting. And I think you're getting an enhanced buffer to the salt marsh area, and the salt marsh being the more sensitive resource area associated with the site. So anything that reduces lawn grass in these coastal areas and cuts down the potential use of fertilizers would be considered a plus in my book. I would say also that hopefully some of you will still be members of the Conservation Commission when the state finally issues actual performance standards for land subject coastal storm flowage, so that some of these issues that come up that deal with the flood zone, which don't allow commissioners to turn in their book to an actual regulatory language, will eventually be cleared up. So I'm of the understanding that they're getting close. I'm also of the understanding that they're trying to coordinate some of the language that will appear in that regulation with language that's also going to be in the state building code. So we won't be having butting heads between the building inspector and the Conservation Commission. But as some of you know, I've been on a commission since 1978, and I've waited a long time for those regulations to come, and it's been a slow process. I can remember many times that they were supposed to issue, and here we are in 2022, and we still don't have written regulations, but hopefully we will soon.
Amen.
Thank you, Bob. Jen, did I cut you off? Is there any, did you have another?
No, I appreciate Richard reminding me that we didn't ask for any more mitigation, so I guess I'm good.
All right. I'm looking hard at this plan and just trying to look at the distance from the proposed, it's like a little bump out in the foundation from that to the edge of the salt marsh. What's that distance?
You've got one figure to the right of the plan that I'm
one that-
reading as
I got 34.4
That's to the
that goes
deck.
that goes
yeah,
to
that's
the
from the
deck.
deck.
But what's the distance from the from that kind of bay area, Josh, to the edge of the salt marsh?
About 44.5 feet.
So it's less than 50.
Correct.
It was my understanding, Mr. Chairman, that the part of the reason for that proposed buffer zone mitigation was the fact that some of the work was inside the 50-foot. Did I read that somewhere in one of the cover letters or so forth?
I believe so. That the idea was to try to stay the same distance as the existing septic tank and pump chamber. That staying on, within those structures, and then provide the mitigation on top of it.
I guess I'm just wondering if that bump out were either on piers or whatever, that would that they could get the 50 feet or pretty close. It looks like, I guess there's still a corner of the foundation that's in the 50-foot buffer.
Yeah.
We
off to the
got
right.
Yeah,
Right.
if you see the green line,
Yep.
that green line is labeled the 50-foot buffer. So
Right.
anything seaward of that green line is essentially square footage or structural hardscape that's in the 50-foot buffer. And I wish I could put my fingers on it right now, but I don't see it here. But I thought they had come up with the 1,108 square feet based on square footage, and I think they were doubling. Where did I see something on that?
Amy, do you have any recollection on that?
On the exact square footage of alteration in the 50, no.
Or the reason behind allowing some of this to be within the
Well,
inside?
that's their yeah, that's how they're trying to gain the encroachment into the 50 by giving you some enhancement mitigation planting. And and it's interesting to see that they're also correlating it with the septic tank that's going to be relocated too. And I did want to reiterate that we did have technical guidance from CZM on this, where they're suggesting strongly that this house be on driven wooden piles. So that to minimize impacts of storm damage prevention, flood control, especially for the property to the south, which is, you know, down gradient. So it's the 50-foot no touches in our bylaw.
Right.
Well, and the concrete pad is new disturbance in the 50 as
It's
opposed
existing,
that's exists. So it's already there.
correct.
Wow, it's pretty far away from the house.
It is there.
Is that a shed or something, or do we know why that was there before?
I'm not sure what it is or what it was.
I don't recall it had a structure on it. Does anyone else recall seeing a structure on that?
No
No.
structure. I just think it was a pad, like a pad that was there. No structure.
Is there a purpose for that concrete pad? Is it being used as something to place chairs on or something, or?
I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm just looking at a photo of it. I haven't been told that there was a use of it. I can ask to see if there is, to see what it's there for.
I think either way, it would be great if it was removed if there's no current use for it.
Certainly ask the applicant.
Yeah, Frank, my question on the mitigation was tied to the encroachment in the 50. And I guess I would want to understand why it isn't driven piles as opposed to this traditional foundation, I guess.
We have the architectural plans. There's a note on this to see the architectural plans for the. I
Believe we did submit them.
that should
We don't
show
have
the.
anything.
Check. I'm pretty sure we sent them over. If not, I can send them again. But the applicant did say that the concrete pad can be removed as well, just while I'm on.
Okay. Anybody else with the other information we've heard so far? Richard?
No, I know from visiting there and being in the area, knowing the house, that I guess I can understand why they aren't interested in putting it on the piles. And then the reality is in that particular area, there's just been decades since there's been a water issue coming up that high. So, and that's a fact, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen by any means.
Okay. Doug, do you want to add anything, or?
Well, I guess that I was trying to see if we had these in our packet somewhere, but the building inspector will review this for the flood openings and correct? Like,
Yes.
So there's a call yet to be made on. We don't really have that. I get, well, at least I can't find it. I've been searching here. But I was assuming that this was made with the appropriate amount of flood vent openings in lieu of piles. So I was carrying under the assumption that it conformed. Like Bob said, if we ever get guidance in lands subject to coastal flooding, maybe there'll be something in there, and then maybe we would have a policy that everything is on driven piles and coastal flood zones. But
the building itself, the building itself, in terms of the first floor elevation, if I'm reading this correctly, the first floor elevation is at 19, and the flood zone elevation is 15. So they're building this 4 feet above flood stage.
Exactly.
So
right.
So they're giving you quite a bit of I'd say futuristic flood stage increases. They're building that right into this plan, instead of being the minimum, which I think for the A zone is a 2-foot clearance. They're already jacking it up to 4 feet.
4 feet.
So as far as height above the flood zone, they're doing more than they have to.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify one comment from Jen earlier?
Go ahead, Josh.
The bump out on the back is on piles. It is not a poured foundation. I had to pull up the architecturals to make sure, but
There you
Oh,
go.
okay. Frank, you got your dream.
If that's a dream or not.
And Josh, just clarify on the plan shows the septic tank and the pump chamber. And the TBR is to be removed.
correct.
Yeah, okay. So those structures that are in ground right now inside the 50 are going to be totally removed. And the proposed septic will be to the front of the house. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Into the side as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Josh, there's another one that shows a generator right on the property line. I'm assuming that generator is for the other home.
That is the abutters, yes.
Okay. And I think Amy had brought up CZM's concerns. I'd spent some time talking with the building department about this. It's kind of a funny zone where the house sits, but it is compliant to be a poured foundation under the existing rules. And I think that most people are in agreement that they haven't seen a lot of water coming this far up. It's not to say that it's not gonna, but
Yeah, Frank, I think Bob's comments were very instructional. I didn't know the how high, or I hadn't remembered how high the first floor of the house was going to be, but it's it's already 4 feet above it as planned, and I just think that's not something we should have to be worried about at this time.
right. Okay. Anybody else want to make comments? Do we have anybody in the audience for this?
Seeing none.
So do we have to continue this to the 25th rather than close it and wait for all the written
Yeah.
information?
I would continue it because you don't have your written comments from the peer review that was
Sure.
kind of free form tonight based on, yeah, the timing of everything.
So if you get all of this, I'm jumping in, Frank, I'm sorry, but if you get all of this information in time and we put it on, continue it to the 25th, could we perhaps close and issue if everything is in order?
We could close it for sure, yeah.
But do you think we could close an issue, Amy? Do you think that both is feasible?
You
mean, if-
can vote it that way, but that doesn't mean they're gonna have it any sooner necessarily, but
Okay, yeah, okay,
All right, just thinking if we're just waiting for the formality of Bob's.
right.
Input.
well, this will give you additional time to think about any special conditions, other special conditions you might want to impose. Not sure what they might be, but
Well, it'd be good to give the applicant a heads up. If anybody's got any other thoughts.
yeah, well, so I think you want to see Bob Gray's written comments and have the engineer correct any inconsistencies and inaccuracies in the information, and we'll close it and issue.
Yeah, maybe you
Right.
could just clean up that area
Yep,
confusion there, that's all.
So I mentioned that pad and whatnot. Okay. Again, anybody
So
else?
Josh, just one final point for clarification. Josh, you will change the notice of intent to reflect the correct figure, that whatever that figure is, right now for the riverfront, you got 1066, but it looks like you think that 2,319 is the correct figure.
Correct.
Okay. Very good.
I'm seeing a hand up from a GAAR.
Hi,
Good evening.
can you hear me? I'm Gar
Yes.
Delaney. I live across the street at 332 Central.
I'm sorry, your name again?
First name's Gar, last name's Talanian, and I live at 332 Central across the street.
Stellanian. Go ahead.
And I have a question. Did you guys might have done this already, and you were talking so much industry lingo that Bob was great at this. And did you address the variances on the sheet, like A, B, and C? And will you just grant those? Is that what?
That's Board of Health.
Oh, it is, okay.
So does that next step?
Sometimes the variance, we shouldn't speak for the Board of Health, but oftentimes when you have a pre-existing structure, they can't meet all the requirements that the state requirements, but because that structure is already there, the Board of Health can grant some variances for that. For our commission, we're looking at as a positive step that they're moving the septic tank and the pump chamber further away from the resource area. Looks like they're
Okay.
gonna put that septic more in the front of the house, so everything's gotten further from the marsh, which in our estimation is a better idea, but those would be questions for the Board of Health.
Okay.
Alright.
Can I just ask one more? It's a general
Yeah.
question. And it
Yep.
might not be appropriate, but the applicant is David Vogel. And is it related to Robert Vogel, the building commissioner?
I've talked to Bob Vogel, our building commissioner, several times about this project, and he's never indicated that it was. And he's pretty responsive guy, so I have a feeling that's just
Just a coincidence?
coincidence, but I can't answer that formally, but my guess is that he'd have made that known pretty quick if it was.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Bob Gray, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to continue to July 25th.
We have a second?
I'll second that. Doug.
Doug got that one, Jen, sorry.
I-
All
I
in
win.
favor?
I win.
Yeah, poor Jen, she's like. All in
Trying to hold
favor,
on.
Jen, go ahead.
Yes, I agree.
Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes. So both Josh and Bob, thanks for all your information.
Very
this
much
evening.
thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I'll get those to you as soon as I can.
Great. Thanks again.
Have a great night, you guys.
Thank you,
too.
Bob.
Okay, I'm gonna flip back to 107 Turner Road. And this is Grady.
Yeah, actually, it's Paul Marabito. I don't see him on the call.
He was there earlier.
His name was admin earlier. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
Really?
called
Oh,
admin.
okay.
There he is, admin.
Called admin, Mr. Admin.
Did they give him a new computer?
He's still, he
All
needs
right,
to,
I'm unmuting admin.
there we go. Still muted.
Nothing's changed. Other than the.
There you go.
Yeah, we got you. You sound like you're somewhere in Corbett Canyon, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me in.
You're on.
You're on,
Okay,
Robert.
thank For the record, my name is Paul Marabito from Ross Engineering Company. I'm representing the owner and applicant of the property, Susan Malarkey. She owns the existing dwelling shown on the plan at 107 Turner Road. It's an older structure that she's proposing to elevate up to with the first, that'll have a proposed first floor elevation of just over 16. The locus lies in firm zone AE 15. So the first floor has to be 1 foot above that, which it will be. We've submitted structural plans from Rivermore. The main body of the house that you see on the drawing is the crosshatched area. That portion of the house will have a reinforced concrete wall with 8 flood vents in it to meet the FEMA construction requirements. The open deck in the front and the covered deck in the rear will be supported on posts that'll be supported by individual reinforced concrete piers. We show a proposed silt sock around 4 sides of the work area. It is a corner lot. It's on the corner of Turner Road and Wampatuck Way. The site is relatively flat. It's at elevation 7 in Wampatuck Way. And it rises up to elevation 9 on the right-hand side of the house as you look at it from Turner Road. There's no proposed changes in the grading. So when the work is done, the house will be completely compliant with the FEMA construction requirements for elevated structures in an AE zone. So with that, I'll end and answer any questions the members may have.
Thank you, Paul. Amy?
There we go. So, yeah, we've had this NOI in-house for quite some time, since, God, maybe since April. But we did just Thursday got hard copies, and today got the PDFs of the structural drawings from Rivermore, and I actually have not had a chance to review them yet. But elevating the structure is definitely a good thing to do in this location. And I understand that they're on concrete. Is that right, Paul?
Yes, the main body of the house is, which is shown.
And that's because you can't move the house, is that?
No,
Yeah, it's in one of these locations where you're unable to move it, yeah. Yeah, so other than the fact that I haven't really had a chance, I'm not sure if you have the structurals or not. I mean, I think we're in support of this project for sure.
Okay. Richard?
I've been by it. I know that they couldn't move it and I'm all in favor of them raising it, but more specifically than that, I can't say.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah, looks like we do have the structurals here. Looks, did you say they're concrete piers? I think you already answered.
Yes.
There's concrete piers for the open deck out front and the covered deck to the rear. They'll be supported on posts which are supported by reinforced concrete piers.
So they're gonna elevate the entire house up on
Yes,
piers. That's quite the project. And then tight quarters there.
it is. They're gonna lift the house up and they'll have to work underneath it. That house really needs to come up.
So my only question, I guess it's, concrete versus wood piers again. How are we guided by that or bound by that? Or does that?
Because you're in an AE zone.
Yeah, no, but I mean, does it matter if it's concrete or wood? Regulatory wise?
In this case, you can make an exception if you're unable to move the house. But there is a distinction on if it's an A zone, whether or not it's a coastal dune or not.
Oh, so you mean, so when they're talking about picking up and moving, you're gonna pick it up vertically only?
Vertically and work underneath it.
Oh, and work underneath it. So yeah, you're not gonna be able to get piles driven under there from a pile. Okay,
No.
that, I get it. So I thought that explains it. Yeah, that's tight. Yeah, yeah, you've got neighbors all around you there. Trying to get in there, get that
Sure,
work. Yeah.
Doug, if I may, just by way of information, this is 107. The house to the right is 109, and I believe the one to the right of 109 is 111. We did the work on that. The commission approved that house to be elevated on a concrete wall with breakout panels as well. That work was completed about a year and a half ago. And that house had to be picked up in place and they worked underneath it. The construction of the foundation was similar to the one that is before the commission this evening.
Got ya. All right. All right, thanks. So yeah, yeah, you did email the structurals out, Amy. So we do have those to look at. We get a chance, but all right, thanks. I don't have any other questions.
Ken?
With I guess, and maybe this was said and I missed it, but what is that concrete pad on the left, and would that be kept if it's raised or when it's raised?
I'm not sure what that pad is, Jen, to be honest with you. It's about a foot thick.
That's thick.
Stick.
I don't know if they're going to keep it or remove it, but the house is going to be about well, the top of the piers are going to be at 15.4, 15 and a half, which is about 7 feet above that. So it may come out, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what function it serves at this point because it's opposite the covered deck.
Right. I feel like I only have eyes for concrete pads tonight.
I know
every week it's something. I guess it would obviously be my preference that it would be removed. Other than that, I'm good, Frank.
Okay. Paul, is there anything missing before I jump to Brendan? But the screenshot we're seeing, this property takes a dog leg off. Is there anything else on that property? Takes kind of a funny turn and goes back, and I don't see the far end of it. Is there anything else showing up?
It's on the plan that lot to the right at 109 is the same dog leg. Well, the only thing I can think of is those two houses were on one lot at one time and they divided them up. And in order to get the square footage, they put the dog legs in the back.
Okay, but there's nothing else on that property back there.
No, it just rises up. It's all open in the back.
Okay, thank you. Brendan?
Yeah, I don't have anything additional. I'm good.
Want to get you first next time, Brendan, so you don't have to listen to the
It's okay, everyone.
covers the details here.
Yeah.
Anybody in the audience?
Frank, it looks like, according to like Google Satellite, it's like a gravel parking-ish area that might be shared.
Okay,
There's some cars behind the house. So it's a little reminiscent of that, of just like an open parking fiasco.
okay.
It looks pretty unimproved, though. It's just kind of a vacant.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I just didn't know if there were any other structures or anything
Mm-mm.
like that. Okay,
I mean, there's a small children's pool that you can pick up at Auchan for about $20 if you're interested.
I'm good. I'm good. I don't need those anymore, but we could get one for you. All right. All right, so we don't have any, Amy, do you have any other thoughts or comments?
No.
So how do we want to proceed with this? Are we good enough to close? Do we need to get that information? Can we close and ask, get that stuff on file?
I think, well, we have everything in hand. I mean, there's nothing else really on this one. So I think on this one, you could probably close.
Okay,
Like, we're not waiting on anybody or anything on this one. I think we do have it in hand.
okay. So I'll take a motion. Or not.
Are we motioning to close?
To
and
close.
issue? Okay.
Yep.
I make a motion, we close 107 Turner Road.
Motion from
Second
Jen,
that.
second from Brendan. All in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
We have a request to continue 15 Revere to, I'm sorry, 34 Ocean first.
To win.
This says the clients decided not to go forward with the proposed addition. And now
Yeah, but they still have
it'll
a,
only consist of the septic
right.
repair. So can we?
This one. They're both on this one. It's both of them.
Well, from Dylan Brady, there's when the subject is 34 Ocean.
And it's a request to continue to
Right, so-
725.
Okay, so both of these are requested to be continued. So what's the
Yeah.
date we want to continue 34 till? 7/25?
Yeah,
Okay. That was a motion from Richard.
Sure.
Can I have a second from anybody?
Second from Jen.
All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Right, thank you. So we also need a motion to continue 15 Revere Street.
So moved to 7:25.
And a second
I'll second that.
from Brendan, all in favor, Doug
Yes.
and Jen?
Yep.
And Frank, yes, great, thank you.
121 Jericho.
121 Jericho Road. Do we have somebody from Morse Engineering?
no, No, wait a minute. I think is that the order? It's 121 Jericho?
Yep.
I thought it was, lot 6 Elm Street.
Nope.
Oh, I guess it's 121 Jericho. You're right. Never mind. Yeah. I have it on a different agenda. Differently, so, okay.
All right, do we have somebody from Morse?
I saw Greg on earlier.
He's got his hand up.
Good evening. This is Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is a notice of intent and a stormwater permit that was previously opened at 121 Jericho Road, the applicant being Thomas McCarthy. The notice of intent was reviewed. This is a raise and rebuild for a single family home at that property. It lies in the FEMA floodplain at elevation AE 15. You had reviewed the wetland impacts at the previous meeting. We had proposed that the first floor would be elevated up above the floodplain with a top of foundation at 15.5 and 16.5 for our first floor elevation. The foundation would have flood vents. I believe you were provided with copies of the architecturals for that with the original submittal. You had sent this project out for a peer review with Merrill Associates for the stormwater aspect of this site. Merrill conducted a peer review and provided comments to you on Friday last week. I corresponded with Peter Palmieri at Merrill today, and I believe we have resolved the outstanding comments. There was a question on how we were modeling one of the outlets of the roof dry well system. As you'll see on the plan here, the stormwater system at this site is basically comprised of taking all of the roof gutters and directing them to a subsurface dry well system at the back of the site. It was very sandy soil at this location. The calcs showed that we reduced the rates and volumes of runoff post-development for the 1, the 2, the 10, and the 100-year storm event, even though that's not necessary as we're in land subject to coastal storm flowage. Peter did have 2 outstanding comments, which I would hope you could condition if you felt necessary. One, he wanted to review the location of the erosion control barrier along Foam Road. I've highlighted on this plan the erosion control barrier in red. It starts at Foam Road and basically goes around the entire site to the opposite corner on Jericho Road. I didn't see any need to extend it any further, but we could certainly review that in the field at the time of a pre-construction meeting if you felt necessary. And then the second was in regards to the driveways. I'm calling out that we're proposing a pervious driveway here. The intent is that the driveway would either be a gravel driveway or a crushed stone or a shell. And we provided a detail of that just at the bottom of this page, just off the screen, that calls out shell being one of the proposed surfaces, yet the plan view only calls it out as a gravel or crushed stone driveway. It is our intent that it would be a pervious material. It's not a bituminous driveway surface. DEP had no comments on this. I think we've satisfied all comments to close. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Amy, do you want to start first?
Yeah, sure. So as you know, this is one that's been kicking around for a while. It was the Bob Crawford one that was turned over to Greg in May or so. And as Greg said, it's been going back and forth with Merrill's peer review engineer. It's as late this afternoon. I actually haven't been following along with all the comments, but I think we'd want to take a look at the written comments before we close on this one. And yeah, other than that, I mean, it looks like we're making good progress. And as far as the limit of work, the way we usually condition these would be to wrap the entire site with the limit of work, with a construction entrance. And as far as the details on what Merrill's commenting, that the peer review comments are pretty specific to the stormwater design and accuracies in the information. So I think that we want that to be also signed off on before we close on this. Those are my comments.
Let's start with Doug on this one. If you would,
But you're gonna start with Brendan, so he got to say something.
he'll be next. I'm just looking at all the stormwater stuff and thinking that you might be the better.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. Frank.
You guys give me way too much credit. No,
You
it
can't take
looks
the
pretty.
fifth you can't take the fifth anymore.
Can't take the fifth, okay. No, it looks pretty straightforward, so you've got that. Greg, is it all the roof drains are tied into that and going to that one infiltration system? That's what it
That's
looks like.
correct.
Yeah. So, and Peter has reviewed that. I saw the drainage calcs. I didn't. I didn't see Peter's. Did he have a set of comments and then
Yes, so-
Yeah, there were quite a few comments going back and forth. I think there was like 10 different emails or so today that they were going back and forth trying to nail down some of the details, but yeah, but
so
that
we're
was
just
today,
we're,
yeah.
you're just saying like we kind of technically we don't actually have them back from Peter yet.
You do. You received a letter from him right at the end of the day today. While there might have been not as many as 10, but there were a bunch of emails back and forth. It was all about how we were modeling the outlet of the roof drywall system. That has been resolved at this point.
All right. So yeah, I was just looking for and so then Peter did get us a letter back saying that he's Greg, you said there's like a couple, it sounds like we're just looking at missing some technical things, which is, you said that the comment was the placement of the
placement
silt
of the
fence.
erosion control barrier.
Yeah, and then the way you were modeling that, which that's just all technical, and I'm sure whatever, you'll have Peter satisfied with that. But we actually don't have that letter, Amy. Like from Peter,
No,
so like
we
don't
did not
his.
have this sealed and signed and ready to get you to you guys within the time frame that you require. So no, but it sounds
Okay.
like it's there now.
But it sounds like we're
wasn't
there with
then,
it.
so,
Yeah. It's not that. Yeah, it's not incredibly complicated if everything is all tied together. And the driveway's impervious. So yeah, it's I'm good with it.
Okay. Richard?
Simple. I presume, Greg, that both drives are impervious. I mean, sorry, pervious.
That is correct.
Thank you. I'm good.
Brendan?
I am good.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Yes.
wish I had more to say.
That's all right. It's been a long day for me. Jen?
I'm good.
All right. So I guess this one seems to have been languishing for a while, and I'm not sure why this has been out there for so long. But I'm just wondering what we can do to move this forward. And you don't think we can close this with those additions? Amy, any thoughts on that? I mean, if we're down to just, this has been out, I know that there was a change, and I know that Bob was probably struggling with the stormwater pieces, and so it switched over to Greg, and everybody's busy, but I know that these folks have been trying to get this thing rolling for a very long time. And I'm just wondering why.
Yeah, no, Frank, it just comes down to consistency in our policy about submittal of documents a week before. You know what I mean? This has kind of been tried to all tie it in the 11th hour, and a little bit nervous that details are gonna be missed if you close things without, with a rush review, but certainly it's up to you guys if you want to close it.
The applicant's willing to continue this to the next meeting to button up any issues, but we would ask that anything be buttoned up relatively soon. We submitted this over a month ago and received comments literally Friday afternoon, which is why this was rushed at the 11th hour here. But if we could button this up this next week and maybe talk about issuing an order of conditions at the next meeting, we certainly are amenable to that.
Okay, I appreciate that, but I would like to see this get pulled together. I know everybody's got lots going on, but
Yeah, I think that everybody shares your sentiments on that, Frank, for sure.
okay. All right, so take a motion to continue. Is there anybody else with any other comments or anything? Just, I don't want to have a, oh, I forgot.
Yeah, I just quick, while you guys were talking, I pulled up, I did find Merrill, so I apologize to make it sound like I didn't have it. I did have it, just I lose things in email. So I can just verify the two outstanding things that Greg was talking about. So the only one of significance was the outlet pipe, 4-inch outlet pipe that he was looking to be clarified on the plan. So it does really seem like we're there with this.
Okay. Right. All right, so we have a motion to continue. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Brendan. All in favor? Actually, who made the motion?
Nobody.
Richard did.
I'll take credit for it, sure.
Yeah, thanks. So all in favor, Doug
Yes.
and Jen?
Yes.
And
It was a
Brendan,
warm-
he seconded it.
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
Now,
good.
just, let's go easy here. All right. A second. So all in favor?
You already did that.
Doug, I did that. Good, we're good. Let's move along. Thank you. It's been a long, warm day.
Yeah.
Lot 6 Elm Street. I gotta
Yes,
open
this is
this
Greg
one.
Morse.
We're back to
again.
Greg again. Yep.
Okay, I gotta open this one.
Yeah, you gotta open this one, and then it's Greg.
On July 11th, 2022, at 6 p.m., the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, of the Mass General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, regarding the application of Christina and Robert Monahan for work related to construction of a new single-family dwelling with associate site work on Lot 6 at location 93 Elm Street, Scituate. About its other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Okay, and this is Morse Engineering again.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing Bob and Tina Coonahan. This is a notice of intent for a new construction home at Lot 6 Elm Street. Looking at the plan here, Elm Street is off on the right-hand side of the page. What's depicted on this are two homes. Lot 5, which is the home out front, is entirely outside the buffer zone. There is no need for conservation approval on Lot 5. But Lot 6 is the home that's at the back of the property, and that's what puts us before you tonight. You'll see that Lot 6 is accessed by a common driveway from Elm Street back to the proposed home location. Where the home is located, the home is set 98 feet away from the wetland being the blue line that's at the top left corner of the screen. Off of that wetland in red is the 50-foot buffer, and in green, the 100-foot buffer. Again, you'll see that the house is at 98 feet from the wetland. The driveway, the septic system, and all utilities associated with that are outside the 100-foot buffer. but what is inside it is the landscaping of the backyard, which includes a little bit of grading, pervious patio, and a proposed pool. The limit of work is set at 58 feet away from the BVW. You'll see that we have erosion control devices around the limit of work of the entire site here. We comply with the 50-foot setback under the local bylaw, and all structures comply with setbacks under the bylaw, the pool being at 65 feet and the house being at 98 feet. DEP had no comments on this. You had previously had the wetlands reviewed by Art Allen as part of an ORAD at the subject property, so those are locked in and current. The stormwater associated with this site was reviewed by the planning board associated with the common driveway application, and they had hired Horsley and Witten to review all of the stormwater. We expect their approval at their next meeting. We have satisfied all of the review engineers' comments and met with the planning board previously on this. But I turn it over to you at this point.
Thank you, Greg. Amy?
Yeah, so like Greg said, this property was subject to an ANRAD review back in 2021 with Art Allen, and the resource areas were confirmed at that time. I don't know, I guess I'm wondering, fill, like how much fill is coming onto this site, and then also with respect to the stormwater permit. So like Greg said, this is being reviewed by actually the stormwater peer review for this is Horsley Witten, and they're reviewing both lot 5 and lot 6. So the orders would reflect that stormwater review as well, and the conditions with the O&M plan and for the common driveway and so on. But anyways, so I think that there may be some questions about fill, but I have been following along on the reviews that have gone back and forth a couple of times, and I believe that most of the questions that Horsley Witten had were addressed, and plans were revised. Not sure what date this plan date is, but I think they were revised at least once. So that's good. And I'm not sure we have a freestanding O&M plan. But anyways, I was going to recommend that we continue this to the next hearing, since planning board is meeting on this, I think the 28th. And I think it would be prudent to see what conditions that they have, so we can be consistent with our permit with what they also condition. We wouldn't want them to compete with each other.
Okay. Is Horsley Witten doing the stormwater for us or for the planning board? Or both?
For both. So we're relying on the review that is being done out of the planning board's account.
Okay.
We did not require an individual review.
Okay. So I guess I'll go to Jen. Do you have any thoughts or questions?
It's tricky. Yeah, I'm not sure I have anything right now, but there's a fair amount of trees coming down, perhaps, that I'd be interested in understanding, like what mitigation was being proposed for that. but nothing nothing wildly different than a normal thing.
Okay. Well, we'll keep moving it around.
Yeah.
Brendan? I'm trying to absorb it all right now myself.
Yeah.
Frank, I think Brendan dropped off the
Okay,
call. He had to go early. So
okay,
it's just Doug, Frank, Rich, and Jen at this point.
okay. Richard?
Well, I guess one question I have, which may seem silly, but if the house is at 98 feet, why couldn't it be moved 2 feet?
Greg?
So we have to comply with the setbacks to the septic system in the front yard.
Oh.
And just where the septic system was located, I think we have the house 20 feet off of that. And it put us 2 feet into the 100-foot buffer.
Got it. Okay.
So
I don't have anything else right now, Frank.
But not a
okay.
silly question, Richard, because I thought the same thing when I first saw it too.
Well, in that case, it's definitely not silly.
No, not silly.
I figured there was a good reason, though.
Well, it's a good point. The whole pool and all the backyard is all in between the 50 and the 100.
Well, that means to me there should be some mitigation, and I expected that would be coming along.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah, I guess I do see opportunities for some mitigation in the back. Well, so just for clarification, Greg, I'm just the house, again, the drain, roof lines all tie together, and then they go into looks like fairly shallow depression there. But then there's like a little overflow. So what is there, just some like stone in there or something?
sure. So stormwater on this site, that back house, there are roof gutters along the back of the house, which discharge into a chamber system right behind the garage. But then the front of the house, as well as the majority of the common driveway, drain to a rain garden, which is in that bottom left corner of the lot. That's a
Right.
planted rain garden. We had provided plantings within that.
Okay.
And that's the stormwater aspect of this entire site is outside of your purview. That is all with the planning board, with the bylaw. The stormwater permit will be issued by them. It's not under the jurisdiction of conservation. When you look at the site, as a whole, it was specifically designed this way to try to minimize some of the impacts to the buffer zones. We utilized the common driveway to try to reduce the impervious land surfaces here. And we specifically didn't go up to the 50-foot no disturb buffer. We tried to keep a little bit more of a buffer than the bare bones minimum. So if you zoomed in on this screen just to the back of lot 2, you'll really see that while this plan may look like a lot of work, what really is inside of this application tonight is the notice of intent on lot 6, which is only about 4,000 square feet of disturbance within the 100-foot buffer behind the house.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the context, that's all.
Yeah.
Great, because there's a little structure out the back with a pipe, it looks like, going out with a small outlet aiming right towards the corner of the property.
Yeah, that's the overflow from the roof dry well system.
Okay. So not a whole lot of water is going to come out of that thing anyway.
No.
And is the pool an in-ground pool?
Yes, it is.
And with a pervious patio going around it?
Correct.
And just like kind of like a little retaining wall there.
Yeah, on the back side of it. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So is that proposed subsurface roof dry wells 4-inch overflow? Is that leader just pointing in the wrong spot then?
4-inch PVC pipe to connect to roof.
Yeah,
ground.
to
That's
the left of the pool.
Left of the pool.
Yeah, there's a leader there.
That's
Says proposed subsurface roof drive wells with 4-inch PVC overflow, but it looks
So
just
that's-
like the. Go
yeah,
ahead.
that's pointing to the crushed stone envelope around the dry wells. So I mean, it's pointing to that system is what it is. We're not calling out specifically where the overflow is, but the overflow is just below that. You'll see.
Oh, you know what, Greg,
Oh.
here's the problem. In my
Okay.
email, I pulled this up. I'm looking at it not on the screen so I can zoom in.
Gotcha.
And it's been revised, so I'm looking at a slightly outdated. So there
Okay.
was just a lead. So there's my confusion. Let me just close that one out and go back. All right. So that leader was pointing basically to the pool. So but it's been revised. So it all looks clear when you look at the right plan. All right. All right. I think that ends my long-winded questions. Thanks for sticking with me, Greg.
Have I missed anybody?
Oh.
Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
Seeing none, Frank.
Okay, so I think a couple of good points were made. It looks like almost this whole lot's gonna get cleared to build everything, Greg.
So it's about 40% of the lot. The lot itself is 40,377 square feet. We're disturbing about 18,000 square feet of it, as you see it.
That's just in the in lot 6, right?
Just on lot 6, correct.
Okay, is there more land with this, or is that the whole, those two are in the parcel? But it's kind of funny how that little piece of land jumps in there.
Yeah, so that little piece of land is owned by the abutter to the north, Richardson, or the abutter to the top of the screen. That's likely to be, looked at in the future.
So is Richardson the owner of all this now, or?
No, these two lots are Coonahan.
Okay,
Richardson is the property above the screen.
okay.
There was a question regarding the amount of fill on this site.
Yeah.
I haven't quantified the exact volume of fill here, but I can tell you that we've essentially designed the site to comply with all of Scituate's bylaws. And again, it went through a pretty extensive review with Horsley and Witten. For example, this is a portion of the sites in the Water Resource District, which requires a 4-to-1 grading instead of a 3-to-1 grading. Dry wells are required to have 3 feet of groundwater separation instead of 2 feet of groundwater separation under the state standards. So, we have designed the site to minimize the fill, but also to be in compliance with Scituate's bylaws. You'll see that we're not proposing expansive lawn areas around either house. So we've tried to minimize that impact to the best that we can.
Okay. So Amy, when you said this is before the planning board or Greg,
Yeah,
they're in the middle of reviewing the stormwater as well?
yeah. So they're having I guess a public hearing on the 28th on the matter. And I believe that they expect to issue findings on that date. So I'm just suggesting that our orders be consistent with planning board comments, since we will tie in the orders to the stormwater permit, although we're not the lead on the permit, as Greg said.
So you're suggesting we don't close till after they have the hearing?
Yes.
All right, well, if anybody has any other thoughts or comments before we continue this? Greg, you have anything you want to add?
There really isn't any reason why you couldn't close this. This was submitted in early May. It's well beyond 45 days to even open the public hearing on this project. The planning board has already had a public hearing. They've taken abutter comments. We've done extensive review with Horsley and Witten. The planning board will be issuing the stormwater permit and the common driveway permit. Those have all of the stormwater aspects of this site covered. Those all get recorded at the registry of deeds and are attached to the deeds of either of these. Your piece of this project is with respect to the wetland impacts and the 100-foot buffer zone. I believe you have all the information that you need to review that and to issue an order of conditions. I haven't heard any questions, or I don't have a list here of anything further that you're requesting of me or the applicant at this point that would prevent us from closing.
Okay, I'm just wondering, one of the things that was raised was that we are, you are within the 100 with the pool and a good deal of that. Is there any mitigation or anything that can be added to this to offset that?
I think the mitigation is the fact that we're not working up to the 50-foot buffer zone. We are providing an additional buffer there already with what we've proposed, number one. Number two, we're taking an existing site. There's already a home on this property, albeit at the front of the lot. There are no stormwater devices on the property. There's a failing cesspool at the property. We are bringing the entire site into proper compliance with stormwater in Title V, where it does not exist that way today. And again, the addition of 8 feet of vegetation along that.
Where'd you go?
We lost you, Greg, somewhere in
that 50-foot buffer.
We missed the last 30 seconds.
So the fact that the existing property today has a failing Title V septic system, has no stormwater devices on site, we're bringing all of that into compliance with standards that are applicable today. Secondly, the fact that we're not working inside the 50-foot buffer at all. In fact, we're giving you additional buffer zone. I've seen you require additional buffer zone as mitigation on other properties. I noticed a project I saw earlier tonight down in Hummerock where they're proposing, I think, a 10-foot buffer strip as mitigation for creating a new structure inside the 50-foot buffer zone. My client complies with the 50-foot buffer. He provides 58 feet.
Okay. So Amy, if this has been pretty well vetted through the planning board and we don't have anything really significant here, I'm just wondering what the reason is to not close this. And nobody else seems to have any other issues.
Yeah, well, because you want your conditions to be consistent with the planning board permit.
But we're gonna write the
for
conditions after,
stormwater.
even if we close it, the conditions get written after.
Well, that's true. I mean, that is a good point, Frank.
Your
So-
permit would likely require that all other permits and all other conditions of other boards be obtained and complied with. So that's covered.
I don't see unless I'm missing something here. I mean, we did the wetlands review back with Art and we're comfortable with all of that.
We're good with all that. No, I'm afraid that I'm not afraid, but that's a poor choice of word. But I am slightly concerned that if the planning board votes a certain way, that your permits could be in conflict with one another. So that would be the reasoning to keep it open, to make sure that they are consistent. But, I mean, I think you could close, and as you say that, I mean, the permit, the order actually won't issue, actually, but it still would issue before they even meet. So, you know, there's a risk that they could be in conflict there. Although I have, as I said, I have been following along with the review, and I am quite comfortable that the project is very close to meeting the requirements of the peer review. But I think that there were few open items, like some details that Morse had not provided yet, but believe that he may have provided them. I'm not sure, but so it's close. No doubt about that.
All right, well, how does anyone else feel here?
I'd be okay to close.
That's Richard.
Yes,
You want to make a motion?
sure. Make a motion to
Okay.
close lot 6 Elm Street.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Second from Doug. All in favor? Jen,
Yeah.
and Frank, yes. Okay. I think we're there.
Thank you.
141 Driftway. Let's see.
Does that have to be open or?
I don't believe I read that one. So on July 11th, 2022, 6 p.m. the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Situate Code of Bylaws, to amend the order of conditions issued under DEP file number 68-2902 regarding the application of Paul Sharon for work related to 2 Title V septic systems in place for sewer connection at 2 new single-family dwellings on property located at 141 Driftway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website. And we have Greg.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. As was just read into the record, the property is at 141 Driftway, the applicant being Paul Shearing. This property was before you a little over a year ago for a notice of intent, as well as a stormwater permit to construct 2 new single-family homes in a duplex unit at the property. At the time, you had done a peer review with John Chesia for the stormwater aspect of the site. And the site, as we had proposed it originally, had all 3 structures tying into the town sewer system, which is located in a pipe at the back of the property. Since that time, the 3 buildings have been built. The 2 single-family homes are very close to completion. The duplex is well under construction, but not as close. The connection of the single-family homes has been denied to the sewer system by the Board of Selectmen in the sewer department, which forces us into designing septic systems for those 2 homes. You'll see that we've designed septic systems in the backyard of the 2 single-family homes. And as a resultant of that, that's where we originally had proposed the rain gardens for those 2 lots. We've since moved the rain gardens a little further back on the property to comply with the new setbacks to the septic systems. The septic systems have been approved by the Board of Health at this point. John Chesia has performed a review of the stormwater system. He provided comments to us Friday afternoon last week. We revised the plan today and resubmitted it. So John has not had a chance to look at those revised plans. He was asking for some additional information in regards to inverts of the pipes coming out of the chamber systems. And he had a question with respect to the groundwater in one of the soil test pits we have. I expect that we have addressed that in our revised submittal, but he has not reviewed it yet. So I expect this will be a continuance. But I'm here to take any questions that you have or address any comments that are made. Turn it over to you.
Okay, Amy?
Yeah, so I think this is pretty straightforward. One question I had, Greg, was this amendment, did it get sent down to DEP?
I believe it did. I
was
can verify
just-
that though. Yep.
If you could just verify
Sure.
that, I was just trying to figure out where that was. Just,
Okay.
And otherwise, I mean, I'm comfortable with what's going on here. And I also concur that I think that this is in the totally home stretch of being ready to go.
Okay. Doug, why don't you field this one first, if you don't mind?
Okay, again, was looking for a plan I can zoom up on, but it's too bad it was denied to connect to sewer.
Why?
I guess I don't understand that. So I see you got chambers out the back of the house. But is the duplex then still on? That's still on public sewer.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
It is.
okay, I get it. And I just paged through Chesia's comments there. There are, the previous ones did have I don't know, like nothing huge, but a handful of things that he was still waiting for. So I don't know. I think it's and everything gets kind of constructed before it. I mean, just is anything in the 100-foot? Maybe just
So
barely on.
the rain gardens are pushed back on lot
Yeah,
4A
they're-
and 4B.
I see
Basically
that,
to the 100-foot buffer zone is where they end
Yeah.
up. Where they are also though is that puts them inside the FEMA floodplain.
Oh, gotcha.
The FEMA
Yeah, so that-
floodplain is basically in the embankment behind the houses here, so they are lower than the 100 years flood event at that location. This would be classified as land subject to coastal storm flowage anyways at this location, where it discharges to the North River.
Right. Okay. Right, so there's no need for compensatory flood storage or anything like that
No, there isn't.
because it's the North River, yeah. So considerable amount of grading on site. But yeah, I'm good with this.
Richard?
I'm just curious, did you ever get a specific reason why it was not allowed to hook up to public?
I believe there's a lot of politics involved.
Okay,
At town hall?
really? Okay, I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, I'm really okay.
Jen?
I guess if Doug's happy, I'm okay.
Pressure's on, Doug.
Yeah.
I know. I wish I understood more about why it's not allowed to hook up. Because I thought the last I heard it was, but things change, I guess.
Well, I
Um,
mean, I also take a lot of I mean, John Chesia is very thorough in his review. So we always can take a little comfort that we've got a professional who does this all the time, reviewing all those the stormwater calculations, so we don't have to hurt our brains trying to understand all the numbers.
Oh, I'm banking totally on Doug Arbor though.
All right. Amy, do you want to add anything to this?
How about if you guys motion to continue to the 25th? And we can try to get it done then. Maybe we'll close an issue then. How about that?
I
know-
make a motion.
Can I just, before I gotten a call from the builder trying to kind of a little exasperated, trying to move this along because of where the houses were in this. So is that timeline going to be? Is this move this?
The houses are proposed to be occupied on August 1st by the families. So the septic systems are under construction currently. They are outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So I believe the builder will be applying for occupancy permits for that August 1st deadline. We would just hope that if you had to issue a temporary occupancy permit or whatnot while the stormwater systems get constructed, it sounds like those will be constructed, sometime in August if we have the amended order at the end of July. But it does happen fairly regularly where you have an open order of conditions on a site with a house that is occupied in it. Mr. Sheeran is not intending to sell these properties. These are properties that he's retaining ownership of. They are rental properties, and he is finishing up the duplex. He's not going anywhere. So if you could work with us just to, if anything needs sign off, I guess, for that August 1st occupancy, we'd appreciate that. And then the stormwater systems would be constructed as soon as available in August.
Okay. Does that all make sense to everybody?
Well, I'm taking that to mean if we made a motion continue to the 25th closed and issued, that we'd still be good.
Yeah, and what they're saying is that if moving this back a little bit, I mean, it's been a back and forth because of the change from sewer connection to septic, that they needed to make those changes, so revisions were made. And so these detention areas, or whatever you want to call them, got shifted closer to the buffer. But as Greg said, oftentimes if we get to the end where that rest of the house is ready and there's some stuff to be wrapped up, that we can give a letter or something to that effect, that as long as it constructed property or we get some surety or something. Okay. All right, so we have a motion. And do we have a second?
No.
Who wants to do a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so all in favor? Jen
Sure.
and Frank, yes. Okay. So that's.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're on to 12 Oceanside.
Stay right there, Greg.
On July 11th, 2022, 6 p.m., the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws to amend the order of conditions issued under DEP file number 68-2901 regarding the application of Dawn and Brian Mahler for work related to a raise and rebuild a single-family dwelling on property located at 12 Oceanside Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Again, for the record, Gregory Morse Engineering, representing the applicant. This is a request to amend an existing order of conditions. I was before the commission a little over a year ago to get approval, which was granted at this property for a raise and rebuild of a single family home. Since then, the applicant has purchased the property and they want to revise it slightly. What we're here for with the amendment is to change the wooden piles, which were specified on the property, to concrete piers, which would be constructed. This is not on a barrier beach location. Concrete piers are allowed in the building code, and they are allowed in the FEMA zone, which these are in. It's in a velocity zone as well as an AE zone. The elevations would all remain the same. It would be a FEMA compliant. It would just be a concrete pier instead of driven wooden pilings. The second request is at the front of the house on Oceanside Drive. Originally, there was a garage at the front of the site. What we're proposing to do is to take down that garage. It was originally proposed to stay, but we would take down that garage, and in its place, we would construct a crusher run driveway, which is a gravel surface. We've shaded it on the plan here, so you can see that driveway location. And then thirdly, across the front of the house, where the garage used to be, there was no deck proposed. We've now proposed a deck across the front of the house along Oceanside Drive in that location. So the changes again are from wooden piles to concrete piers, the deck across the front of the house, and then the crusher run driveway instead of the garage that's at site today. Turn it over to you.
Okay. Jen?
Yeah, just clarifying, so there's new deck along the front, but the deck along the side and the stairs didn't change at all?
So the new deck is along the front, and I believe the deck that used to be on the right side of the house may have gone right up to the lot line. It's just been pulled adjacent to the house. I believe it's 6 feet wide at that location instead of to the lot line, which was 8 feet. So it's a
Okay.
reduction in deck.
Okay. I'm good for now.
Okay. Richard?
No, I think I've got it, and I think I'm okay with it, especially with the garage coming down. I don't have any questions for now.
Okay, Doug?
So, just the concrete versus wood pile
Wood.
thing, I just like, I guess I get confused on where, when we are requiring wooden piles, is that only on a barrier beach? I mean,
That's when it's required under the building code, is on a barrier beach.
how about us, Amy? Do we have like a,
But it's coastal dune is what drives it. Is the coastal dune is the driver there, and also depending whether it's V zone and A zone. But I mean, I'm gonna say, if you want to know my thoughts.
I mean, part of it's in a V zone.
Yeah, well, so it has to be elevated in conformance with state building code for coastal wetland resource areas. And this portion of Oceanside does not appear to be mapped as a barrier beach. Why it was conditioned on driven wooden piles, I'm not sure if that was commission preference back in the time, or like, Greg, do you remember that?
We originally proposed it on wooden piles.
Yeah, I mean, because typically when it is a total raise rebuild, I think that it's preferred, like just commissions does prefer the driven wooden piles as a replacement, unless it's the building can't be moved, and then concrete piers can go. But under my matrix here that I'm looking at, based on the location of the activity and then the proposed activity and the permit request, if it's a lateral expansion, it could be either or open pilings or columns, as long as your lowest horizontal structural member is at least 2 feet above BFE. So I think I would just condition it that it needs to be in compliance with state building code, at the time of filing of the building permit. So,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get myself clear. The question's more for my benefit here, but like, because I remember it was almost at one point in time, many years ago, it was almost just a construction preference. There were a lot of wooden or concrete piles were going in, and then we see a lot more driven wooden piles. But yeah, other than that, that's really my only question. I don't have any. So is this a modification? Is that what we're?
Yes.
it's an amendment.
Amendment,
And so
okay.
one of the things is that it's like, there's a distinction of without footings. So like, the benefit of a pile is it definitely doesn't have a footing, right? Because it's getting
Right.
driven with depth.
So
Whereas
these are concrete piers, basically, then.
and the
There's no
piers
footing.
may or may not have a horizontal member below the surface, which actually does, if it's a coastal dune or, in the whatever, if it's a moving system or whatever, it's going to move, shift, migrate. And so I don't know, just a buried, you can think of it just a buried footing like that is going to encourage scour and erosion.
Sure.
in the
So
long run. So
Greg, they just prefer to not have wood piles then.
That's correct. Yeah, they
Okay.
want to go to
It's just
concrete,
it's just a preference.
just a preference. Yep.
yeah, and at this location, I mean, you've got the seawall. It's not a barrier beach, so you're not getting as much movement. But I don't know, some people have stronger opinions on piles and others. Like in other locations of Scituate, this, there'd probably be more of a conversation about this change.
Yeah,
But I think that here, if you condition it, like I said just a minute ago, I think you're good.
okay.
I think sometimes people think they're more substantial. They look at the wood piles, they don't realize half of Boston's been sitting on them for a couple hundred years now, but some people just look at that and think the concrete is going to be more durable or stand up better. And then also the availability of pile drivers and the cost.
Mhm.
Some of the engineers are more comfortable with the concrete, so.
Okay.
I think in places where you're really trying to get deeper into the ground, the driven piles are a good alternative, but sometimes they can be problematic if it's real rocky,
Oh, sure. You hit ledge or something like that.
then you're stuck. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We're on to,
Anybody for
oh yeah, we
comments?
gotta vote this one.
We gotta see if anybody's on the,
Oh, yeah.
on the horn.
Yeah, any, anybody with a hand up? Any comments?
Yeah,
Thanks.
butters, doesn't look like it.
Okay, so we need a motion.
We'll make a motion to close,
Or accept this, is it?
accept the
Yeah.
amendment to the existing orders.
Okay, that's Richard, do I have a second?
Second
I'll
from
second.
Jen.
Thanks, Jen. All in favor, Richard?
Yep.
Or Doug, whoever,
Yep.
losing track here. Frank, yes, good,
Thank you.
thanks.
Gee, it's only 4 voters. We have a lot of power, each one of us, don't we?
Yeah, it's great.
The next one I think is up to be,
On July 11th, 2020 at 6 p.m. the town hall. I have to open this and then we
Yep,
have to continue it. Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under chapter 131, section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and section 30700 Town Central Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Ted Goff for work related to raise and rebuild an attached garage and driveway and a spa, and other hardscaping at a single-family dwelling on location 19 Wood Island Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access to the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website.
So now you need a motion to
Continue to,
the 1st of August, 8/1. So moved.
is that what they asked for? Yes,
Yep.
What says,
so that's Richard. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Jen. Ah.
I think Doug, all right, all in favor, Doug?
Yeah.
I know you might have been a little quicker there, but let's give her. She's
I
got
think you
two-
I
better
don't need a
give it to her.
charity motion.
I think you need to give it to her.
Me too. Frank, yes, thank you. All right, 128 Old Forge Road. July 11, 2022, during the 6 p.m. meeting at Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Nancy Jacobs for determination of applicability to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands Bylaw for activities related to a septic repair, a single-family dwelling located at 128 Old Forge Road, Situate. About us and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information access to the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. And that's Morse Engineering.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the property owner Nancy Jacobs at 128 Old Forge Road. This is a septic system repair project at that property. The lot is 69,000 square feet in size. It was developed with an existing 4-bedroom home. The wetlands that you see at the bottom of the page are in blue. Those were delineated by John Zimmer. Extending off of that wetland in red is the 50-foot buffer, and in green, the 100-foot buffer zone. The house right now is serviced by a septic system, which is inside of the 50-foot buffer. You'll see that there's a leaching pit kind of in the middle of the house, out behind the house. It's within an existing lawn area. That had failed a Title V septic inspection, which puts us before you tonight. The proposal is a new system. We would take the pipe from the back of the house and direct it to a new septic tank in a new pump chamber outside of the 50-foot buffer, adjacent to the driveway. And then we would pump up into the front yard to a new leaching field, the leaching field being entirely outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. We felt that this met the requirements for a negative determination because the tank, the pump chamber, the leaching field are all greater than 50 feet away from the wetland resource. The only work proposed inside the 50-foot buffer is the connection of the existing house pipe to the new septic tank. It's within an area that's existing lawn. It would be restored as lawn, and we have a proposed mulch sock around the limit of work. I turn it over to you for any questions or comments. This has been approved by the Board of Health.
Okay. Jen?
I don't have anything right now. You might come back to me.
Okay, Richard?
Obviously, this needs to be done, and I would think be a great improvement, although any of the engineering goes back to Doug. I would ask about how many trees are going to be removed since it's highlighted up there.
Yeah, just give me one sec. So.
That's what I was
out
trying to count, Doug. I mean,
Yeah.
Richard.
Out front in
Looks
that
like-
area, it's an area that's essentially devoid of brush. It's lawn area right now, but there are a couple of trees. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trees that come down. There's a 4-inch, a 6-inch, an 8-inch, a 12, a 24, and a 36. They're all outside the buffer zone.
So is there any way some of that can be replaced somewhere on the lot? That would be the one question I would have, other than an engineering question, which we leave to Doug and Frank.
I don't know about that. Doug?
Well, I didn't know if he wanted to. Yeah,
I
no,
thought-
yeah, I don't have an issue. I see like, I mean, if he moves it to the left, there's more trees there. I mean, there is a
Right.
big one, a 36-inch tree is good sized tree to come down, but I don't know the shape of it or anything like that. So I don't know if he could, you know, shoehorn it in somewhere else or not. I mean, they could try to make that determination, I guess, when they get out there.
I wasn't thinking that they could be saved. I was thinking that they could be replaced somewhere else on the lot.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
it's
'Cause
some
there's- yeah,
mitigation,
there's a-
some mitigation. That's what I'm talking about.
There's a utility pole with the overhead wires and everything in there, so they're
Yeah.
they're kind of stuck where they are.
Okay. I'm sorry, Amy, did you want to comment on this one?
Yes. Okay, so couple of things. One is that this is pretty close proximity to the water supply, which is noted on the plan. And I mean, I think it's upgraded system is always going to be a benefit. There will be just a little bit of work in that resource area in the backyard when they abandon the cesspool. Right. And then just, I would want to note on a negative determination that we're not accepting this delineation. If this, like, say this were gonna come in front of you as a, suddenly as a no build or something like that, we might want to take a closer look at it. And then also, how about maybe a couple of conservation posts along the tree line, just in case this is also a property transfer where you might have a new owner that decides to clear out the backyard, which is apparently wetland. Otherwise, I think it could meet the requirements of a negative determination.
I think that's a good point. Maybe a few wetlands markers back there. They're so close to the wetlands. I mean, this obviously were built before we had these buffer areas, so a lot of these properties were built fairly close to that. So that would be a good addition. As far as trees, this house it's between the house and the road. And that's all outside the 100, if I'm right, the leaching area.
Mhm.
I mean, it'd be great if they could put a new tree between the septic and the street, but they are outside of everything. Anybody in the audience?
Doesn't look like it, Frank.
Okay, I'll take a motion. I think it would be a -3 if you're in agreement
I'll make a motion for -3.
with some conservation
Conservation
posts.
posts.
Yeah, and
Not agreeing to the resource area.
not agreeing to the resource area.
Yep.
And if they saw their way to add a tree
Add
or
a tree or
something, that
two.
would be great.
Yep, all of that.
Okay.
I feel like Penny tonight.
Well, somebody's got to hold up the fort. Okay. So we have a motion, right?
For -3, right?
And a second
Well,
from who?
I'll second
I
it.
was gonna,
I
I-
can't,
Slow, folks.
Waited.
all in favor,
was like-
Jen? You gave him all the time in the world, Jen.
I
You
know,
barely
yeah.
made it.
I know.
And Frank, yes.
Thank you.
He was being courteous. We'll give him that. Thanks, Greg.
Mhm.
204 Central Ave. On July 11, 2022, during the 6 p.m. meeting in the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on request of Robert and Michelle Hogan for determination of applicability to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws for activities related to installing pile sleeves over 50 existing piles elevated single-family dwelling at location at 204 Central Ave, Scituate, Mass. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the website.
We've
Good
got
evening.
Atlantic Coast Engineering.
Good evening, Greg. Jed.
Good evening, Frank. Good evening, commission members. Jed Hanna with Atlantic Coast Engineering. So the owners here, it's the Hogan family, again, 204 Central Ave. This particular property and dwelling is in the FEMA AE 15 and VE 18 zone. If you look at the elevations on the existing conditions plan, you'll see that the finished floor elevation is 19.13. In the VE zone, the lowest elevation of any structural elements are supposed to be 2 feet clear of that flood elevation. So in this case, the house needs to go up approximately 3.5 feet to meet the requirements. The existing house is already on wood pilings. We've designed a pile sleeve whereby it's basically acts like a coupling. So what happens is the house gets raised up on shoring with jacks up to an elevation to be able to actually do the work. The existing piles have these sleeves put over them. They're drilled, they're through bolted, and then the additional pile extension is added to each of the piles. And then the house is lowered down and the framing's all reconnected as well as the utilities. So really the whole point of this project is to raise it up above the FEMA flood zone, utilizing the existing piles, but also adding new ones. There is no planned excavation at all because both the deck and the house are already on existing pilings, and there's no new additional pilings or excavation planned at all in this project. Fairly straightforward. I'll open it up to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen?
I don't think I have anything.
Okay. Richard?
No, now that you explained it, I understand it, and I know the house pretty well. I don't really have any problems or questions.
Doug?
Just questions that piqued my curiosity, like I hadn't heard of sleeving it. Like, what's the sleeve
Made of.
That was a question I had. Like the
Sure, I could pull up the detail, but it's basically A36 steel piling, 12-inch diameter. Circular in cross section, and of course galvanized, given the salt environment in that area. But yeah, essentially it's steel piles, circular diameter.
and it sleeves over the top. It must overlap by a considerable amount, I would think.
Yes, it's 2 feet, 2 feet below and 2 feet above. So they're 4 foot long pile sleeves. And there's flat stock welded to the inside diameter so that, it'll rest on the existing pile. And then the inside diameter ends up getting grouted. So it's really a rigid connection, and it helps preserve the piles and the hardware that's a part of this system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and never. I didn't think structurally that I would have never heard anything like that. But it seems like a cost-efficient way. Not that I imagine it's cheap at all, but beats replacing all those piles.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Amy?
Yeah, so I think that this appears to meet the requirements of a negative finding. I mean, it's barrier beach, coastal dune, land subject to coastal storm flowage. Looks like they're trying to improve an already, already kind of advantageous position being elevated, so they're going the extra mile, so this is good. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one? So I think I've seen these before. They're almost like a big clamp. They're like a two-piece thing, and you put them around that or slide it down on it and bolt it all together. Is that something that you stamp, or does that need a structural engineer as well as your work, Jed?
So my stamp's on the detail plan.
As a structural, I mean, is it?
It doesn't need a structural stamp in this application.
Okay, I'm assuming that you still go to the building department, right? That they.
Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
we okay this and then.
Yep, we reviewed it with the builder, and I reviewed it with Bob Vogel, and
Okay,
he's good with it. The similar design, you see some of these by like the lighthouse, Rebecca Road, and in those areas as well.
is this because of the FEMA flood changes? They have to go up further than they were before, or?
Yes,
They-
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I think this was done back in 07.
I don't understand that.
And then with the changes, it's back in the floodplain, so.
We elevated a house, Rich, on 3A to the requirement at the time, under considerable amount of work. And now with the flood change, they're back in the flood zone, which is.
So they don't, I'm sorry to interrupt, but so they don't treat it the same as like a house that's been there, that they don't require it to go up, they just want it to go up?
Well, they
In
could
this case-
maybe stay up, but then they're gonna pay more in insurance.
Yeah,
Right, they
no, I
just-
can understand they want to do it, but it is an actual requirement that they do it. That's really what surprises me is, are they saying this house is raised? Okay, so now it's raised, they absolutely have to go up, or they're just choosing to go up?
Do you know that, Jed? This is more of curiosity than,
Yeah, it is absolutely
Right.
curiosity.
No, yeah,
I'm
it's a
glad
great
they're
question.
going up.
So I believe this particular family owns the house outright, so they don't necessarily have to do it. But for someone that wants to get a mortgage down the road, if in fact they sell this, they'll have to get flood insurance. And obviously it'll be a lot more expensive if the finished floor elevation doesn't meet the requirements
Got it.
of FEMA and
Yeah.
building code.
Yeah.
So they're proactively,
Yeah.
raising it up to get it where it needs to be.
No, I understand that. I just wanted to know the difference because okay, that's good. You answered the question. Great.
Okay, thank you.
so I'll take a motion.
I make a motion for a -3.
Do you have a second?
Go, Jen,
Second
go.
from Jen.
All in favor, Doug
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, and we've already done A on the administrative items. Minor modification at 184 CJC. Oh, boy. Amy, do you want to fill us in on this one?
Yeah, I was thinking that applicant's engineer might be on for this. I see Greg is on call.
Okay.
Good evening, Greg Morse for the applicant, John Keaveney. This is a request for a minor amendment or administrative amendment, if you will, for the property located at 184 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. As you likely recall, there's an existing home that's under construction at this property. This amendment would be to allow the construction of a screen porch off the back of the garage and a portion of the house. The porch would be constructed on a sonotube foundation. It's approximately 18 feet wide and 14 feet out from the house. And if you look at the plan that we had submitted with the request, you'll see that it's located over what was a previous deck at the property with the previous house, which has since been demolished, but it's in an area, I guess I'm getting to, that was previously disturbed. I turn it over to you. There's a very small portion within the 100-foot buffer zone. The setback from the porch to the salt marsh is approximately 95 feet.
Okay. Do we have a plan for that? Do we, something that shows us what you're doing?
You should.
There
Um,
definitely is, and I'm just not sure we're gonna be able to screen share it tonight.
Okay.
I think you have it in your packets. I could try to screen share it maybe, but
So Amy, I'm just wondering, we have other outstanding issues on this property still. We have the trees that were cut and all that. I'm just wondering, do we want to do these things one at a time, or do we want to deal with this thing as a whole? If some of you aren't aware, this is the same property where some trees were cut in the resource area. It's not the larger one, it's the smaller one, but there's still a number of trees that were cut right at the edge of the marsh. Some
And
pretty
that is not
substantial.
resolved as yet, is it?
It's not.
I see on the agenda, there's listed on enforcement orders as well.
Right. I guess I'm not as inclined to give one when there's an enforcement order sitting on something else, is my
I
point.
agree with you. I think one thing should be taken care of before we even consider another.
Anybody else?
I would agree with Richard.
I guess why don't the next meeting, let's see if we have made some progress in the enforcement order. And then maybe we can take a look at what this piece is that's being proposed to add on, so we can see how much closer it gets to the marsh. All right,
I think that's a good idea, Frank.
I have a feeling this already started, this modification.
That's not
But
good.
why not? Sorry, just a little not thrilled with a couple of these lately. How about Limbacher on the septic system on Gannett Road? I know that they had trouble with trying to place this in the backyard, so they're moving part of the septic to the front yard. Is that right, Amy?
yeah, so on this one, it's an approved septic repair, Title V repair for property 317 Gannett, and they did hit ledge in the backyard, and so we've got a revised plan that moves the leaching field to the front of the property. But I think I've also got Josh Green on, so I'm gonna unmute him. That's okay.
Yep.
Josh.
Yep, I'm on. Josh Green, Merrill Engineers, representing Bill Limbacher. So the installation of the septic that was originally proposed started. The septic tank and pump chamber went in when the excavation continued for the leaching field. More ledge than was expected was unearthed, so the leaching field could no longer go there. That being the case, they're really the only other option on this property is to put it in the front yard. So we did soil testing and found no ledge out there. So where it is proposed right now is basically the last spot on the lot that we have. But that's the reason for the change. It stays approximately the same distance away from the wetlands. I believe it's just a hair closer. I forget what the actual number was on the previous plan, but that's about it. The erosion control stays the same, and septic tank and pump chamber in, like I said. That I'd take any questions.
Anybody? I just, I went to this site to check it out. I saw where they couldn't do anything in the backyard, and they've done perk tests and they're able to shift it around. And I know they're trying to move that along. And if anything, this gets it further away from the marsh or resource area. So I can't see where it's a negative personally.
Sounds good to me.
Agreed.
So I think we can want to make a motion to issue a,
Yeah, there's
Minor
nothing to be
or
issued.
even
just
nothing
a-
really. Yep.
Yeah, you just accept if you can make a motion to accept the request for minor mod on this one.
Okay,
Come on, Amy.
go
That's
ahead.
good. That's all you need?
Yep.
Jen, come on. Make the motion.
I wasn't paying attention to Amy's words.
Richard, you're the only one that's on it right now. So come on.
A motion to accept the minor modification for 317 Gannick Road.
Second.
Second from Jen.
Yeah.
All in favor, Doug? And Frank, yes.
Okay.
All right, wow, this is getting
You
late.
can tell, yeah.
We're
getting
approaching the
to
witching
end of the
hour.
road here, folks. It's
Yeah,
getting on
definitely
9
appro-
o'clock.
Yeah, we're approaching the witching hour, and my apologies.
Yeah, all right,
for-
so moving on to CFCs, we've got an outlandish amount of CFC requests going on, but anyways, in front of you are 5 that are gonna go out. One is the outfall repair, one of them's a new build, one of them is, I don't know, that was a various Hummerock project, older.
Oh,
It was an
117
addition
River.
and a septic system. The 25 mil wharf was that digging out of the
Yeah.
dirt
Very
in the
simple thing.
bottom of the harbor there, and then yeah, another addition or something like that, but
That was a new house at Colonel Mansfield that was done a while ago.
oh yeah, new house, right?
So
Yeah.
I think we should just sign them and get them out.
Yeah, we got them in process. We have, oh, by the way, if you haven't stopped in recently, we're looking for, Jen
Signatures.
probably sent out an email, but I think we're down to like 1 signature holding back out quite a lot of paperwork.
I wrote her back that I'd be over sometime tomorrow. And I
And
will.
Frank, you're not it. You've come in and you're here anyway, so, but,
I can come in tomorrow.
I'll be
and
over tomorrow.
Jen
I'll
is off
be
the
ar-
hook
I'll-
too.
Jen's off the
I'll be
hook for a
around.
while.
The papers were delivered. I
Yes.
signed them.
Ooh.
Okay,
Wow.
onward to enforcement.
Yeah, great.
What's
So-
going on with the condo association? That's one I'm not sure of.
Okay, so this one is the condos, the Salamondo ones,
Yeah, 33 Central, yeah.
yes, the expensive condos down there. Okay, so, well, anyways, we got word of some expansion that was going on along the riverside on a couple of the units. One of them was a deck that went in, and so anyway, so this was a example of successful enforcement. So one of the condo association was contacted, and one of the units, it was removed pretty quickly. There's another unit where it's not a wooden deck per se, but there's like granite steps that have been installed in the side of the coastal dune and along the river there. And I just wanted some direction from you on which way you wanted to go on that. If you wanted me to send another letter out, the condo association had reached out because they weren't having a lot of luck with the owner of the unit themselves, but actually the owner of the unit, I think, put the structure in, but it's really the condo association owns the land. So, or if you wanted me to, what action, just looking for some guidance on what direction to go on that.
Richard, this is your
I
neck
think
of
you
the
should,
woods.
I think you should absolutely keep going on it. Why would they be an exception? It's not something that's easy to see if it's on the riverside because the buildings are so large in general. And I certainly hadn't noticed it. But I would think, yeah, I think we stay after it.
Okay,
All right, well, I'll send out another letter and, I don't know, maybe a fine.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
I mean, otherwise they'll just keep going with changes there, so someone needs to be.
Right. I agree.
well, I was thinking that town council maybe needed to be consulted for responsibility there. I mean, because it does get a little bit tricky on, the.
I'd still
don't know,
send the
that was
letter and
question
fine 'em.
that The condo association was asking me, they're like, why are we responsible for something that, we didn't do? It's really the unit owner,
I'd
but
still
I don't
send-
think that,
Well-
told them that the message hadn't changed.
Well,
to
it's
remove it.
it's external to the condo though.
Right, it is, yeah.
So
and it's on
doesn't
the
that
river.
make it doesn't that make it in common area? I haven't seen the condominium.
Yeah, it's
but
common
if
area,
I-
yeah,
So that's the association.
yeah,
That's the way that works.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Okay, we'll do that.
Okay.
Letter with penalty, okay,
And
just to get our attention. And then we have got 184 and 208 CJC, so we just an update on 184, no, I'm sorry, on Pacheco on 208 CJC. We were out there this afternoon, actually, taking a look at the area. Little bit of regrowth going on in the lower level, but also, so we had Bob Gray out there and also Brad Holmes, who's working on behalf of the owner. The owner was there as well, and looks like, we gave him a little more direction on what we're looking for as far as timing goes to try to get plants in the ground. But I think that we really need to get an agreement in place, and also just so there has been no movement on the performance bond. But we did hear from an attorney representing the owner there, and their feeling is that their request is too high. Think it was actually, I corrected myself that it was 125, but I guess we did ask for 150. So I don't know. I think that probably is a little bit high, but we're still waiting for information from them to come back to get like the real number. But in the meantime, I've heard that the occupancy permit for the main house was given out by the building commissioner. Just want to give you that update. And then we have not seen anything else on the Keaveney. We did want to set up a meeting, but I do see Mike Ball is on the call on that. Maybe he's got an update for us on that restoration on just, I think there were comments put out there, and we wanted to try to coordinate both sites so that they would, that the restorations would,
both happen.
yeah, like whatever, build on each other, or at least be consistent, but it's going rather slow, but our time frame for planting is still definitely this fall, probably October, but with stock being ordered and reserved this summer by the people responsible.
Right.
So Amy, I don't know that we don't want to bog this down, but
Mhm.
both parties have attorneys on this now, and it doesn't seem like things are really moving in a very decent fashion, or that we have all this back and forth on what they're responsible for. And I don't think it changes anything other than time's gone by, that this was a really flagrant violation. And so I just wonder, are we better off with town council and getting some good or getting advice from them on just what we can implement here. I don't know. I mean, I hate to see this happen where they've just flattened this area and now they got their view. And I mean, before this would have been large trees with some limbs taken off to create a little bit of a view. Now there's nothing there. And trees have to be planted, and we're going to wind up with a bunch of small trees to be started over again. I'm just not happy about any of it.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if maybe would be better served to see what our options are and I don't, are we fining them now? Or do we have a fine actually running?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we should definitely roll in town council and talk about the penalty accumulation and what direction, like, I don't know, you want to come up with something that's reasonable, that's not going to halt the restoration either.
Right.
I see Mike Ball does have his hand up if you want to hear anything from 184 on just a quick status.
Sure, but I think I don't know how anybody else feels, but it's not like we don't have enough going on, but this is one that's worthy of our persistence and put.
Frank, I'm with you. I think we do everything we can to make sure that people realize that this is not going to be allowed and we're not going to tolerate it. And whatever we have to do legally to get them to fix it.
Yeah.
And fine them too.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and I do have approval to work with town council on this matter, so we should try to get a meeting
Well,
of I think we just need some paperwork, like that they're agreeing to what they're doing, but or just the agreement, but yeah, and I agree, it's super slow.
Plus they just don't have any skin in the game and in terms of any way to really get them to do the work that needs to be done. So I'd like to see that take place, and I do think maybe it was time to get town council involved.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so if we're just gonna keep the comments really short, Mike, but I'm gonna unmute you. If you can just give us a real quick status as to when we're gonna see something or when we're gonna meet. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to just provide an update from my standpoint, real briefly. As you know, I spoke with Bob. Bob and I are good friends down here on the Cape, and we spoke a number of weeks ago about his impressions of the site and my impressions. I had, as you know, submitted a letter of my findings and proposed replanting of the area on just the Keaveney portion. I've been back and forth just a little bit with Greg Morse regarding getting a clean plan copy that shows that so I can easily put together a planting plan that doesn't have all the labels of the existing veg and just shows locations of existing stumps. With that, I can then kind of work a planting plan around the stumps, because I think we agreed, Bob and I, that ripping out stumps and putting in new doesn't make any sense. So I've requested from Greg a couple of times, I don't think he's on the call anymore, that I just need that base plan, and then I can put together a planting plan for Bob and you, Amy, to take a look at. So that's kind of where we are with that. I know it has been going pretty slow. Bob and I did agree that definitely no planting should occur until the fall, when it's optimum time to plant trees and herbaceous vegetation. So it is in process. It is taking some time. I'm just trying to get what I need from Morse, and then I'll have something ready in draft form for Mr. Keaveney, his attorney, and then ultimately the commission to review. But I know I'll say it again, it is going very slow, but I'm ready to produce something.
So Mike,
Thanks, Mike.
yeah, and we don't want to belabor this tonight, but one of my questions has been all along is how do we quantify or come up with something that was equal to what was cut away?
Yeah, it's difficult. Different towns address compensation or mitigation in different ways. For example, in Mashpee, if you remove 12-inch diameter tree, you replace that 12-inch diameter tree with an equal amount of diameter of woody vegetation. So that could be 6 2-inch saplings, and that would equal 12. In this case, I mean, we've got trees were cut on that property. Some were over 60 years old based on a tree ring count. I mean, it's a tremendous number of diameter of hardwood that was removed. So replacing that amount, I mean, you certainly can't replace a 24-inch tree, and there were a couple of 24-inch trees cut out there. So I think what you're looking to do is fill in the available space as much as possible with as much woody vegetation as you can. You're not going to meet that diameter total just because it's so massive. What I've proposed in my letter, were a number of eastern red cedars, which was a predominant tree previously there. There was black cherry. So I'm proposing all of the same types of vegetation that was there, but only until I can kind of schematically place the trees around the existing stumps will I know what's too much, what's too little, and then it'll be up to the commission to kind of decide if they feel it's acceptable.
Okay. Well, my own personal opinion is in the case of your client, they've got plenty of land there, and all those plantings don't have to be right in that little spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for that input, and we got to see what we do. And if we'll see if we can reach out to Morse and make sure he gets you that. So.
Yeah, clearly he's a very, very busy consultant. I know he was on a number of projects tonight, and so he's probably like me, trying to keep his head above water. But Amy, I know you were all trying to get a Zoom together to meet. I was on vacation and not really available last week, but I'd be willing to drive up from the Cape and meet you and Bob and Sean Sullivan if you'd like. I'm much more available now, so that's an option if you'd like.
That would be great. That would be great, Mike. Thank you. So let's try to put that together.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Do we want to hear from Sean Pacheco?
Sure. Real quick, Sean. Okay, though, please. Oops. Okay.
How you doing? Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, I mean, our original remediation plan we passed in over 2 months ago, and Bob looked at it, made some other recommendations for some larger cedars. And within a week, Brad revised it and sent it back. And then I know there was some issues with Bob being sick and whatnot, but we pretty much stayed ahead of this, and everything we've been asked to do, we've been doing. And obviously we met again today, and because there's so much the revegetation that's grown in the last several months since the original cutting was done in the winter. It's 5 to 6 feet high now, and Bob and Brad both thought it was important to come to the site and look at it because of how much has grown back in that area. And as discussed today, they had a plan to get together. Brad, within a couple of weeks, is going to revise the figures based on the revegetation that's there now, to add that in and revise the remediation plan again. And he said, to you today that he would be able to get that back to you within a couple of weeks. And that was the reasoning as far as figuring out a bond, making it a realistic number based on what needs to be put into it. And obviously I've agreed with all that since day one. I don't think we've held up any of this. I mean, like I said, our remediation plans were in months ago. there's been some delays and we're trying to get this done as quick as possible as well. So, obviously we're trying to work this out.
Oh, I personally haven't seen a remediation plan that comes anywhere near what a typical replacement of the number of trees that were cut, Sean, and the diameter of those trees.
Well,
The two of them don't even come close.
I'm just basing that on what Bob had said. Bob's response to our original remediation plan said that he agreed with the numbers, but thought that the cedars should be larger. That's when Brad revised it and sent it back to him. And then we didn't hear anything for almost a month. But again, like I said, I mean, that was based on their conversation between each other and what Bob's comments on the original remediation plan.
Unfortunately, the way the meeting shifted around, I couldn't be there today to meet with them or you. We went back and forth. It was going to be Friday and then it got shifted to today. So we'll take a look at that and speak with Bob again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the point is that yeah, these things just, it takes some time. There's a lot of moving pieces, but I would agree that we do need accuracy in the data in order to come up with a number. And I do like what Mike's just said about filling in, in between the spaces. So I think we're just trying to get the best plan we can to restore the area. But we really appreciate the fact that you're working with us, Sean. So that's key to this all working out, is having everybody work together. So thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thanks. What else do we have on the agenda for this
Order
evening?
of conditions, I would recommend that we accept them as written for 11 Conservation, 266 Tilden, and 3636 R Bailey's.
Okay. That's a motion. I have a second.
Second from Jen.
And all in favor?
I'll say yes.
Frank, yes.
And I'll make a
Okay, oh,
motion that we-
and so just before we adjourn, I just wanted to give the update that it does look like there's movement in the legislature for extending our ability to meet remotely. It hasn't been officially passed through each department. I think it's through the House of Representatives and it's still in the Senate, unless something happened today that I'm unaware of, but it does look like it's headed in that direction, that there will be an extension at least until the end of the year, if not through March. So that's good, I think, for us at least.
So the 25th, we're still remote.
As of, well, we'll have an update this week if it changes, but we're gonna advertise that it's, actually, I think we're gonna advertise so that we've got an option to go either way. But I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping it's gonna be remote. I think it's gonna be remote based on what I'm seeing in emails by the, various people out there. So that's all good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Let's
right.
get this-
Well, sorry
get her
this got
done.
so late. My apologies for my slowness this evening.
You were fine. I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor?
Thanks,
second?
everyone.
In favor? Good. Good night.
All right.
Guys.